historic Mac Sennett Studios in Silver Lake, California. It's Rough Draft with Reza Aslan. Tonight, we have television legend Norman Lear and musical guest Ingrid Michaelson.
This is the golden age, certainly where drama is concerned.
That's me.
Showtime.
I'll see you guys in a little
upstairs.
bit. See you upstairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give an enthusiastic round of applause for Reza Aslan.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hello, Silver Lake. All right. Welcome to Rough Draft. I'm your host, Reza Aslan. We bring the best authors, poets, screenwriters, songwriters, and journalists to the historic Mac Sennett Studios for a lively conversation about writing and the writer's life. Tonight's guest, the man, the myth, the legend, Norman Lear is here. Yeah. Yes. Norman Lear, of course, the creator of some of the most iconic television shows in history, including All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Good Times, Sanford and Sons, Maude, The Facts of Life. Should I keep going? I can keep going. I mean, are you sufficiently impressed yet? Yes? Okay, I just want to make sure. It's no exaggeration to say that every American has, in one way or another, been touched by Norman Lear's stories, whether they know it or not. I actually have a bit of a personal connection to Norman Lear. See, my family came to the United States from Iran in the 1980s. Not sure if you remember the 1980s. It wasn't the best time in the world to be Iranian in America, as opposed to now when it's fantastic. This was, of course, the height of the Iran hostage crisis, 444 days in which Americans were being held hostage in the US Embassy in Iran. And for a 7-year-old kid who barely spoke any English, I got my ass kicked on a regular basis. I was called raghead. I was called camel jockey, which is weird. I've never actually seen a camel. People made fun of me for the way I talked. They made fun of me for the color of my skin. In fact, I've admitted on numerous occasions that I spent a good part of the 1980s pretending to be Mexican. Yeah. Which, by the way, tells you how little I understood America. Did not help. Did not help. But as you can imagine, you know, this was kind of a source of anxiety for me. I really had a difficult time figuring out who I was, what my identity was. And then I would come home and I would turn on the television and I would watch All in the Family or I'd watch The Jeffersons, and I would see that the conflicts that I was dealing with on a daily basis were being used for laughter, and all of a sudden, everything made sense to me. America made sense to me. I realized that I wasn't the problem, America was the problem. That it was America that was trying to figure out who it was, and that these shows really proved that to me. You see, in pre-literate societies, the most important person in a tribe was the bard or the poet. This was the guy who basically memorized all the myths and the stories of the tribe, and then on special occasions, say like the first day of harvest or the first day of spring, the entire tribe would gather around together, and the bard would stand up and he would recite the stories, the myths of the tribe. But you have to understand that these weren't stories about the tribe's past, they were stories about its present. They were an attempt to provide the tribe with a sense of identity. It was an attempt to tell them who they were, what they valued. Norman Lear is the closest thing that we have in this country to a bard. His stories defined America. They provided America with an identity at a time in which it was desperately searching for one. That's the power of stories. They provide a new perspective. They offer a way for people to figure out who they are, who they want to be. And I don't think that there is a writer that has wielded that power more effectively than our guest tonight. So please, welcome to the Rough Draft stage, the one, the only, Norman Lear. It is such an honor to have you here. You must be used to this kind of response. Everywhere you go, people just stand up and start clapping, right? Am I right?
Everywhere I go.
Yeah, I figured.
I get out of the bathtub and it's everywhere I go.
Do you understand the power that your stories have had on this country? That's something that you must be aware of.
Well, this happened on a larger stage. You know, we all know about show business and television and everything else.
Sure.
But it's what everybody does in the course of their lives, giving a moment of pleasure, of support to somebody they didn't even think about doing it.
Did you always want to be a writer?
No. I wanted to be the guy behind the guy that says, who's that with? I wanted to be the with.
Right. And so what was the big break? What was the moment in which you started to actually put some of this creativity to work for you?
I got to tell you, my first evening in Los Angeles, parked my wife and child in a motel on Lower Sunset Boulevard and went out to look for a Sunday newspaper to find a place to live. Passed a little theater that had a tiny marquee. It was a house that was made into a 90-seat theater. Marquee said, opening tonight, Bernard Shaw's Major Barbara. I loved that play, loved that play. I started to talk to the guy who was sweeping up in front. He turned out to be the producer. So when he heard I had a wife and child in a hotel, and this was my first hour in Los Angeles, it enlarged the conversation. He asked me if I wished to see the show. I had to call my wife, and I couldn't miss this opportunity.
Right.
I caught hell, but I saw the show. As the light went down, 3 people walked in. Alan Maybury is a very famous British actor at the time. Dame, I forget her name, and Charles Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin, my first hours in Los Angeles.
For whom Mac Sennett Studios was a second home, actually. Yeah. Did you get a chance to talk to him?
No, I didn't. But the show is over. There is no backstage. It's a little place. The actors come out and they sit on what was the stage in front of Mr. Chaplin. He gets up and thanks them. And then he turns to everybody who's still seated there. And he says that when he's had such a good time, he thinks it's one of the best productions he's seen. He always feels the only way he can say what he feels is to do something for them. So then he performs an inebriated guy trying to mail a letter in a mailbox over here in a high wind.
What's your writing process like? Do you start with a melody, or do you start with words, or do they come together at the same time?
I want to start off with saying when I saw the email that you were on this, I felt a little embarrassed to talk about the writing process. I just want to say that first. And now I'm going to talk about my writing process. Basically, most of the time it's melody. A melody comes first.
Yeah.
And then kind of dummy lyrics. Like I'll listen back to an idea and it's kind of like speaking another language, and you sort of have to translate what you're saying, and then every once in a while an actual word will pop out that I'll like, and I'll kind of form the song about that.
If we could just fast forward, obviously, I mean, you had such a string of successes, and then certainly, in many ways, probably your most iconic character, Archie Bunker. I read somewhere that that character was very much based on your father. Is that correct?
Well, he used to call me the laziest white kid he ever met. And I would yell at him in return. They tell him he didn't have to put down a race of people that call me lazy.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm doing. You're the dumbest white kid I ever met.
And what was your relationship with him like?
In neon, 6 feet high, is the word rascal. And behind it, he stole, and he cheated, and he lied, and I loved him.
Yeah. I'm curious about what other influences, growing up in the Depression and the war. I mean, obviously those were huge experiences in your life.
And learning about anti-Semitism. I was a very serious kid who saw the foolishness of the human condition. I write about that in the preface. That's the first thing
Yeah, in the memoir, even this I get to experience. It's basically, this is your life story, but it's also about your career
it covers my waterfront.
It covers your waterfront, right. Your Jewish heritage plays a pretty important role in your life, in your identity. You write a lot about that in the book itself.
My father went away. He went to prison when I was 9 years old. Before he went away, one of the delightful things we did together was to build a little crystal radio set on a cigar box. I picked up a signal and heard this priest from Dearborn, Michigan, Father Coughlin, was very well known
Charles
at the time.
Coughlin, yeah.
And he was a vicious anti-Semite. That's when I learned that there were people who hated me because of the fact that I was born a Jew. And I think it scared the shit. Can you say shit?
Oh, you can say shit.
It scared the shit out of me. And what helped me a great deal, we had civics classes when I was a kid. So I learned about my First Amendment, my Bill of Rights, my Declaration of Independence. I learned about the guarantees that this country made to every citizen. Time and I have six kids, and I never turned my phone. I never turned. Two of them are twins. Kate. Kate. I'm sitting at a television show. Can I call you? Oh, it's yeah. Sweetheart, I'll call you tomorrow.
Thank you, Kate.
Bye.
Priorities. I am curious, though, who's the most favorite character that you've ever created?
I can't. Because Archie is, but so was Maud, so was Mary Hartman. Iconic in their own ways, meaning in their own ways.
Is there one that you have like a more emotional connection to than another?
It would be, there's more Maud in me.
Maud?
You know, a fool.
Yeah. You know, we have a lot of writers here who run writers' rooms, and the writer room experience is so different nowadays. I'm really fascinated by what the writing room experience was like in the days of All in the Family and the Jeffersons. I mean, can you take us through that a little bit?
We laughed our asses off.
Yeah.
My instruction was read the newspapers. Let's know what's going on every minute. Pay attention to our kids and our wives and our families. What is impinging on our lives together?
And you would just put it right into the script.
And then we talk about it for half an hour.
I know you hear this all the time, and so I'm kind of loath to say it, but there's no way that you would see a show like All in the Family today, certainly not on network television. How did you get away with it, is what I'm asking.
You use the right phrase. We didn't get away with anything. We were dealing with what we saw around us. We weren't making it up, it was there. We were, fleshing it out, but anything we were writing or talking or had the act of talking about what's happening in our lives. On the first episode of All in the Family, Mike and Gloria are going upstairs to make love, and Archie and Edith are coming in from church because he didn't like the sermon. They left early. They come running down the stairs, and Archie says, 11:10 of a Sunday morning. They wanted that line out. Now, this is the last day before it's going to go on the air that night in New York, 3 hours earlier than it is in LA. And they want that. We argued about a lot of things. All the arguments are over. This is the last one. That line has to come out or be changed. Why? Because 11:10, the way he says it, it's very specific. It's intended to be specific, 11:10 on a Sunday morning. And they're married. What about that? They're married.
Yeah.
I thought that was silly.
Yeah, it's so absurd.
And if I gave in to silly on this occasion, I would be in the hands of silly forever. I mean, it didn't take that much nerve or courage or anything. It just was, no.
the theme song
But
from
he
All in the
sings.
Family.
But
That's actually a great
I
question.
sing. All in the Family was Charlie Strauss who wrote Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh.
All he had to hear was that the character was afraid of progress, lived in the past. So if you think about the
There with that
lyric,
iconic song,
those were the
yeah.
days, yeah.
Particularly in comedies, you know, one of the things that's so magical about it is, and you're certainly the pioneer of this, is the way in which minorities have been co-opted into these comedic situations. And in making fun of them, we're acknowledging that they are a part of this society. The one group that we haven't figured out how to make fun of yet is Muslims and Middle Easterners. And this is obviously a very important thing for me.
Manvi is doing
Yeah,
that.
so my good friend Asif Manvi has started this kind of web show called Halal in the Family, which I would definitely recommend for a lot of people. You know, it's an attempt to do it, but I mean, I can't help but feel that there is this sense of fear, you know, that, well, we can make fun of other groups, but we can't make fun of Muslims, we can't make fun of Middle Easterners. And as a Middle Eastern Muslim, I have to tell you that...
You're a Muslim?
I am a Muslim, yeah. I'm a Muslim who, yeah. What we need, what I'm trying to say is we need a Norman Lear. We need somebody to start making fun of us so that we can feel like we actually belong here. It's coming up. Okay, good. That's good to know. Do you feel like there's anybody in the entertainment industry that is carrying the torch of Norman Lear? Are there Matt Stone, Trey Parker? You're big fans of theirs, right?
Oh my God. And they are carrying that torch and running as fast as they can with it.
Yeah. We always end our episodes of Rough Draft with what we like to call the 5 questions. And so I'll just ask you these questions and you can just go ahead and answer them as quickly as you want. The first question is, what is your favorite book?
Could be Emerson's essays,
Ralph Waldo Emerson's essays, yeah.
especially Self-Reliance.
Don't pretend you read it. What are you reading now?
I just finished a biography of Washington. Couldn't be more interesting.
What is your writing process?
My writing process?
Yeah.
Norman, get to work.
Get to work. Yeah.
It started with gotta make a buck.
Gotta make a buck, which is actually a very good motivation. What is the best advice you ever got about writing?
2 things. A famous playwright who said the best advice he ever got was write. 1 word, write. And the other thing was I had a serious writer's block, and somebody said to me, think of 50 people in a room, somebody yells fire, they all run to one small door. Everybody doesn't get out unless they went 2 or 3, you know, but they all crowd that door, they don't all get out. Think of your ideas, what you want to write the same way. Let them out. That was a really big,
That's good advice.
great piece of advice.
And then finally, what advice would you give to a young or struggling writer who's just kind of getting started?
Go with your gut.
Go with your gut.
Go with your gut. It's
Very
the
good
best thing you'll ever have working for you.
So the book is called Even This I Get to Experience. This copy is actually already taken, but I would definitely recommend you going out and getting the book. Ladies and gentlemen, Norman Lear, one last time. And now, please welcome our special musical guest, Ingrid Michaelson.
If you were falling, then I would catch you. If you need a light, I find a match. 'Cause I love the way you say good morning. Then you take me the way I am. If you are chilly, take me the way I am. And I'll buy you Rogaine when you start losing all your hair. I'll sew on patches to all you tear. 'Cause I love you more than I could ever promise. And you take me the way I am. You take me the way I am. Oh, you take me the way I am.
Ingrid Michaelson. Thank you to Norman Lear. Thank you, Max Sennett Studios. Good night, Silver Lake.
What are you watching on TV right now?
Oh, that's a great question. There's so much on TV.
That happens often. Have you seen this? It's wonderful. And I look at it, and it is indeed wonderful. There are so many great things on the tube.